Well, hey everybody, Ken here. Welcome back to our next slightly delayed Feature Friday segment. We encountered, unfortunately, some technical difficulties this week, but John, who you're going to see here in just a minute, was gracious enough to meet me actually at the parking lot of the job site he was working on so we could get these files transferred over to my iPad and we could get this out for you. But again, John Goldsberry this week, one of our brand specialists and actually a good friend of mine, is going to be talking about some basics on fruit tree trimming. I know quite a few folks I've talked to would be interested in getting involved in growing fruit trees, but there's some nuances and a little bit of finesse to actually how you care for fruit trees. So we're going to spend a few minutes here with John where he's going to go over some of the basics on using our easy cut tools and how you can be successful in growing fruit trees in your yard. So we're going to head over and flip it over to John right now.
Hello, John Goldsberry with Easy Cut. Today we're going to be doing some pruning on fruit trees. Today we're going to be using the loppers and the pruners. We're not going to be using the wow saw. It's a good substitution for using a chainsaw. Don't use chainsaw, too rough of cuts on fruit trees. For your smaller cuts, like basic pruning, you're going to be using the basic easy cut pruners. They have another model that's probably more conducive for what we're going to be using, but I like pink because we as hunters lose a lot of things in the woods, and it's hard to lose a pink pruner in the woods. But for the cuts that are bigger than this, you don't want to stress the tree out too much. So for bigger branches, we're going to be using the little G loppers. All good options. So I'll be going over the basics here. So here we have one of the most famous trees, apple trees, known to man, the Red Delicious. So the first thing we're going to be doing is called the 3 Ds. You're going to cut off the dead, dying, or diseased. So this got kind of beat up from the deer around here. We have branches that are chewed up, and some of them that are just the tips are dying. Maybe got a little disease in there. We want to nip that before it spreads. Another thing to remember when using these tools, we want to wipe them down from tree to tree with alcohol rubs, because if you are cutting disease off a tree, you don't want to spread it to another tree. The next rule to think of is the CAC rule: cross, acute, and clusters. And since we don't have any leaves on the branches yet, I'll show you what clusters is in a moment. But first, you want to do anything that's going to cross. When trees rub, it's opening up the rest of the tree or that part of the tree for infection. Also, anything crossing or growing inwards, anything like that, is going to stop airflow. Airflow you need because of disease. Also, it helps with the harvesting and ripening of the fruits. So right now we want to do anything that's crossing. I see right here that these two may cross at one point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this one right here. All right. I'm going to cut this one too because it's dead. And this one is the acute. It's growing straight up. So I'm going to take this all the way in, and I'm going to cut at a 45 and be done. There's a lot of acute angles here. See, this would be your cluster, and you also have it as an acute growing straight up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take where the tree is probably going to grow another branch out. So I'm going to take this sucker all the way here. So I'm getting rid of, this would have been a cluster. And you want to get rid of your clustering because really your energy goes to the cluster and not to the rest of the tree. That's what we're doing. that's the name of the game here. We are creating energy for the tree to grow where you want it to grow instead of wasting energy into the tree. So here's another one. Down. It's growing down. We want to take this all the way back. And we got lots of clusters up here. Ratcheting pruners are really nice on bigger. So here we are. This is your main lead here. I'm going to be cutting right here, and that's something I didn't explain yet. What you want to do, it's okay to prune your tree. It's not a bonsai tree, but it's very helpful to prune these trees. And the rule is you want to cut about a third each year for growth. Right now, we're not worried about getting fruit on these little trees. These little trees aren't going to be able to hold the weight. So what we're doing right now is we're shaping it for when they do start producing a lot of fruit. So this main lead, I'm going to be doing right about here where the cluster is. Your 9 or 45. Okay, I'm also going to be cutting this. See, this is an acute branch here. We want to find out where it's going to grow outward. I got a little bud over here. And that's another good point I didn't bring up. You want to know what the difference between your little spears and your buds are on these branches. These aren't as pronounced on the apples as much as I'll show you the peaches. One thing I want to say about these pruners, they have a replaceable blade that makes it really nice when they get dull. They take a beating especially when we're out in the woods and cutting things, and you don't bring the little G loppers and you just have this. They are guaranteed. All right, so here we have a peach tree, and these things are really, really resilient. I was backing up the trailer last year and ran this thing over, and I thought that it wasn't going to come back, but it actually even did better. So I'm still a little weary on cutting too much off, but there's some things that I want to point out. When pruning like this little branch right here, it's going to go straight up. This is more like a goblet style, where it means it's kind of open in the middle. The first style with the apple tree is just like a standard style, kind of like you're just trimming off stuff. But this is, you have the middle open. Either one works great. If you have some dwarfs, the goblet style is really what you want. So right now what we're going to be doing is cutting the acute branches off, and we're going to deal with this little cluster right here. So take it down as close as you can to the base and get rid of it. Anything growing on the inside, get rid of. So anything growing towards the middle. So we have some branches over here. I'm not going to mess with that right now because I know that I'm going to be cutting something here. This cluster right here is going to be nothing but problems when it starts producing fruit. The reason being is that's going to be really weak right here. So we have to make room, and we have to decide on what we're going to do. The first thing I would do is get rid of your acute branches that are going straight up. Okay? And remember to cut those at an angle because you don't want water sitting on top, moisture sitting on top. So I'm going to cut this one first, and probably this one. Actually, I'm going to cut this whole middle piece out right here to make the rest of the tree branch stronger. So cut it at an angle. Actually, I'm going to use those little G's. Okay, I'm going to use these little G's. I want to show you how they work, but also if you get into a situation, this isn't like the deer hunting woods. I'll show you how to use those pruners where you could flip them around and kind of dig into the tree branch. You don't want to do that with a fruit tree. You want to take something that can handle it. So we're going to go in here. Going to do it at the angle and just lightly get in there. And there you go. These things are awesome. So now we're opening it up. The next thing I'm going to want to do is cut the next branch here. I want to do the same thing, but this time I want to take this one down as far as I can down to the bottom. Actually, I see some good ones that I could possibly grow out here, so I'm going to not go to the bottom. Okay, and here's what I'm talking about. So you got to know the difference between your fruit buds and your branch buds. So these that have a little bit of a fuzz to them, that are more round, are going to be, these are going to be your fruit, the fuzz. And like I said, we're not worried about the fruit production right now. They're too little. These spears are going to be branches. Okay? So when you make a cut, you want to make a cut where you assume that you're basically letting a branch grow out from that point. So now we have it open up. It's going to be amazing how much this grows. So I cut a lot off. I'm still going to trim the tips here. Stuff that's growing straight up. So we can get growth and it doesn't grow too far out. We want to keep to our third rule. And there we are. I really hope you guys enjoyed these little tips. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I do what works for me. These trees have only been here a couple of years, so thank you for Easy Cut for allowing me to use the product and this plane for going by.
Well, thanks, John. That's great information. You know, again, second week in a row, I've really learned something by watching these videos with Scott last week with Thankful Outdoors and now this week. And actually, some of the tips that you talked about in there, I'm going to look at some of the younger trees in my yard that aren't fruit trees, but especially with kind of those crossing branches and how I can try to help those along and not make them susceptible to disease. So you can check John out on Instagram. That's going to be at JonBoye. That's JonBoyee. He's also got a profile page on Facebook, kind of does a lot more of his hunting adventures and things like that. Him and his wife Carly live in Indiana and they kind of have a mini farm. You might have heard some of their animals in the background. And really you can check her out at Carly Sue Photography as well. She's a fantastic photographer and those two do great work together. So again, thanks John for the information this week. Folks, we'd love to have everybody get involved in this. As you can see, we don't have to be a professional videographer. I'm certainly not a professional editor. We just really want to promote those folks who promote Easy Cut, who love our brand. We love all of you. So get with me on dropping a quick video on how you use Easy Cut. We'll love to promote your pages, promote your business, anything that we can do to help you out this year. So until next time, this is Ken with Feature Friday and Easy Cut. See you next week.